Hi, my name is Sylvia, and I was watching videos last night about people talking about how surprised and amazed they were at China and how disappointed they were in their home country. And I feel like I can relate to that, and I'm really sorry. But I just wanted to let you know I'm a political activist, and I have been so for like the last 50 years. I'm an actual left person. The definition of left has changed a lot because of politics and stuff, but actual left people, we actually do still exist. And so I wanted to let you know that if I know that you didn't know, the cure for not knowing is to search and learn. So I'm going to give you a bunch of keywords for you to search at home at your leisure. And mostly this video is for people who, have had that experience with REDnote or other experiences, and they're just wondering why and how, did this happen? Well, I'm going to try to give you the brief version of why and how this happened. Now, it turns out that you can go to all kinds of places around the world and find good, kind people. You can go to Iran or Syria, and people will invite you into their homes for dinner. Today, as more countries get their actual sovereignty back, their freedom to do as they choose, you will start to see more people shining all around the world. People who have gone to Russia lately also note the exact same thing. Despite the war, everyone is okay. That's because in Russia they support their government because their government supports them. And so why are we so negative here in America? Well, it's because we're living in the heart of empire. This is the culture of our place. People are only considered to be workers or soldiers. And if you're not white, then your place is on the bottom. If you are financially failing, it is because you're just not working hard enough. It's your fault. And that is a lie. And that lie is very hard to bear. Now, capitalism, that's a keyword, is an economic system designed from the start, for capitalists. Those are the owners, the 1%. Capitalists, they take resources from others in order to own them. Now, the great nation that our new president speaks of was actually built on the labor of people from Africa, South America, and Asia. And with globalization, that's a keyword, it was built on the labor of people from everywhere. That is what empires are. And it affects you, even on an unconscious level. So, you need to learn about the term imperialism. Now, the Chinese are light of heart, but there was a lot of pain and suffering to get there. First, there was the 1,000 years of humiliation when they were subjected to the Western empires. When the revolution took place, that was also not very pretty. Now, Washington wants to bring pain and suffering back to China by arming Taiwan, which is a province of China. Despite this, China has succeeded in serving its people. They have also helped to revitalize economies all across the globe without killing and without coercing anyone. Now, an economic system based on serving the people can succeed because that is the actual intention behind it. The structure is different. Local and regional committees work to inform the government. We suffer in America psychologically and physically because in this system, our needs are always at risk. They are always being set aside for the advantage of profit. What we actually have is a capitalist government, not a democracy. I remember when George Bush Jr. was elected and the press called him the CEO of America. That kind of says it all. Now, capitalism intends to amass wealth and power. That is its intention. And that's a one-way dead end. It is not sustainable. You can learn about sustainable meat. That's another keyword. You can see this on every chart showing the difference between rich and poor in America. Like 1% owns like 90%, and this is our lives. And there is no chance for us with those numbers. And it does not work to just go out and own or run or capture every other countries. That is what we've always done. And here we are. You must learn about the neoliberal economy. That's the economic system that we live under now. So none of this is natural. It's an actual set of policies that we are living under. It's called the neoliberal economy. They purposely eliminate public education and social services and infrastructure development and things like that. They defund social programs, put the mentally ill out on the streets, and they've been doing this since Ronald Reagan. These are called austerity measures. Now, the joy and peace that you see in China came at the price of great struggle, and the measurable outcomes and outputs, that's keywords I'd like you to look up. An outcome is how something affects people differently. You know, was it a positive outcome for you or a negative outcome? Do you feel better about it or worse about it? Do you feel like you know more or less? That's an outcome. And an output is actual numbers. You know, like if I get like 500 hits on this site for this video, that would be the output for this video. Okay, so we can see that like in China, they were able to get 1 billion people out of poverty in like 30, 40 years. Okay, that's an output. And the outcome is that people are happier and safer because they are out of poverty. Okay, so you can look at that and see it and compare it with what you know right now. Learn about socialism and communism, the two things everybody says you're not supposed to know anything about. You have the right and the ability to look it up so that you actually know what it means and know for yourself what the differences are. This is not about picking sides. It's about educating yourself. Now, there is some good news. China, Russia, and Venezuela are all examples of countries that have succeeded and struggle against great odds to do so. They are still looking at taking over Venezuela right now, and I mean our government, the American government. Now, in general, the West, or America, reacts every time there's a revolution or an election in which the leader wants to put the people first. The United States, in particular, promptly attacks with military invasions, coups d'etats, sanctions, and direct interference in elections. Your tax dollars at work. Now, there would be a lot more happy people on this earth if not for these policies that support Western corporations over people. You learn about the U.S. history of attacking other nations, installing dictators, and taking ownership of resources. It's called Imperialism. Now, succeeding at real revolutions is do it yourself. There is a reason why the Chinese were running around with their little red books by Chairman Mao. It taught people how to read, for one thing, which is very important. And it also taught people to understand what their situation was, how they got there, and why, and what it was going to take to get out of that situation. They were held at bay as peasant farmers and etc. Now the same thing is with Venezuela, where they also increased their literacy rate significantly. And they did this in the process of actually developing their own constitution. Now, please learn about why things are the way they are. You must learn the history of America. You must learn about your actual choices in economy. There are alternatives, even though they tell you there aren't. The Geopolitical Economy report on YouTube is a site that can teach you a lot. Now that you have been on REDnote, you have been blessed with proven examples of how socialist-based economies succeed. And it's something that capitalists cannot hide or destroy from you. Now for you, you have to qualify to run your own country. You must physically fill the power vacuum. You can't vote for someone else to do it for you. Now you can do this with study groups or just by yourself in the privacy of your own home. China is enabling nations throughout the world to break free from economic oppression, like the port they just built in Peru. This is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. BRICS is also helping countries to escape the odious World Bank and IMF debt. That's the kind of debt that you can never repay. And they're also working on their monetary systems because they don't want their dollar to only be worth 13 cents of a US dollar anymore. Now, the capitalists will tell you that their way is the only way. That's called TINA. There is no alternative. And that is a lie. But you'll be punished for wanting another way. Even just wanting a mixed economy will get you on the outs. So you need to learn about mixed economies. The good news is that we have the knowledge we need to move forward. They suppress and ignore, but it doesn't eliminate that information. It is available to you right now. Things are not as complicated or impossible as they seem. The capitalists are the ones who make life so complicated. But normal is easy, right? For example, many towns and cities have adopted the climate change principles themselves without the national government giving them permission. How many have done this? We don't know because the press has never talked about it. So we actually could be doing better at climate change than we think. Now, there's a lot you don't know about because the monopoly press has a policy of only listening to the State Department or government officials. And when they want to confirm something, they simply ask another government official. This is an actual policy. It has a name, and I forgot what it's called. But journalists cannot contradict what they are told, or they will actually lose access to those government officials, and then they will lose their jobs. Because if they can't get access to the government officials, they can't do their job. And yes, the press, they lie a lot. But we can stay informed despite the mainstream media, thanks to efforts on the internet communities, whistleblowers, and WikiLeaks. Have you ever heard the representatives of Russia speak? People like the Putin, Sergei Lavrov, or my girl Maria Zakharova from the Foreign Department? You have been told, don't listen to them. Now, when somebody says that to you, you need to be suspicious. But you can still hear Putin speak on the internet, and you will be amazed when you do. I first saw him conducting his yearly 3-hour-long question and answer session. He interacted with the press from all over the world and with citizens of Russia. I almost cried. He knows his whole country. He gives real answers. He doesn't lie, because you can tell, right? I thought to myself, now this is a real leader. He's serving his people, not some other interest. You can also go directly to the Russian government website. They have readouts of all the meetings that they have with everybody. So you don't have to get told through the press about what happened. You can actually go and get the minutes yourself and see what happened. Now, what happened to the actual left in America? Because that's a good question. Well, first, they shot and killed Martin Luther King Jr. Then they shot President Kennedy. Then they shot Malcolm X. And then they shot Bobby Kennedy. And then they either shot or jailed the Black Panthers. Those were all of our leaders. Then the neoliberal economists took over, and life got a lot harder. And students could no longer afford to go out and protest days on end. They had to focus on getting a job. They called it the me generation. So the left was broken up. Most people went off to start nonprofits and have been working on specific issues ever since. Like environmental concerns, poverty, justice. We just protest one thing after the other as they come up. And we try to educate the public, but we have zero access to the media now. The thing that helped the civil rights movement, for example, was the fact that it was shown on TV every day. But not anymore. We've been completely wiped out of existence. They call other people leftists who are not. They call people extreme radical left wings. Honey, I have not seen an actual extreme radical left wing group since the Weather Underground back in the 60s. They blew up a couple of buildings and got chased down by the FBI. Now that's an extremist leftist group. Black Lives Matter is not. But there are many books you can read and documentaries you can watch. It's called Do Democracy. But in it is a library where you can go and get yourself educated. Another good thing that's happening, killing people for a living, is having to back off and go away. Our military-industrial complex can't keep up with Russia. The U.S. is now in a fallback position. The war in Ukraine had no chance of success. Russia is winning, and they will be negotiating from a place of strength, not us. The new Atlas and the military summary channels can keep you updated on the war in Ukraine. I've been able to watch that battle being played out with twice-a-day updates. I've seen exactly who's been capturing what territory and how many people have been killed on a daily basis. And that is truth. You can't ignore that. And what I'm telling you is that Ukraine had never been winning this battle. Not the whole time. There's more details to that. In that, the press will keep saying that it's about gaining territory, but that's not why Russia's there. And they're actually conducting a different kind of a battle. It's called attrition. And they're just trying to demilitarize Ukraine. They want to get all those weapons and soldiers and missiles off their border. Now, as far as I know, Trump stands for the big business interests that don't depend on the military. It is a much bigger group of corporations, and what they need is stability to make money. That is why Trump wants to end the war in Ukraine, and he appears to be sort of an anti-war person. We still need to keep an eye on Taiwan, however. It is a province of China. It's not a country. They are being groomed and militarized just like Ukraine in order to cause a war with China. But that is more hopeless than beating Russia. If the U.S. wants to conduct more wars, they might have to start consolidating their 800 military bases. The U.S. and Europe have used up most of their military supplies fighting Russia and Ukraine. So, the new fallback position for America, according to Trump, is the shrinking empire based in this hemisphere close to home. Now, the bad news is that transition will actually end up putting more pressure on us in America and on our natural resources. Now, to get out of this mess, we must be fully briefed on our history and knowledgeable about the ways forward. We need not reinvent the wheel. We have a shiny example in China and other countries like Venezuela. It is a different lifestyle. You are expected to participate in your democracy. In Venezuela, the citizens built their new constitution from the bottom up. We can have a government of public service as it was meant to be. You can educate yourself and train yourselves to participate in a real government. It has nothing to do with voting for the right person or being satisfied with the bones they may throw you. And it has everything to do with what you choose to do. So links will be in the description box below. I ask people on my Do Democracies channel to think about taking the pledge. This is a pledge you make to yourself, that you are going to rework your lifestyle enough so that you have at least 2 hours a week of time to sit down and look at some of these videos, check out some of these links, and get yourself educated. You're always being encouraged here in America not to read, not to learn about things. Don't listen to the experts. They don't know. And all that kind of stuff. And it is not good for you. You need to be in revolutionary mode and revolt. Revolt against that. If you have a high school diploma, you have enough skills to read and learn about your own country. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.